Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur with your host, Steve Kidd, third-generation minister and 30-year business coach. Listen in as amazing, world-changing authors, speakers, and coaches share their struggles and victories. And hear from best-selling authors' insight into how you too can live your life as a thriving entrepreneur.
This is Steve. Welcome to Thriving Entrepreneur. Thanks for being with us here today as we go deeper. That's right, we're talking about going deeper today. Now, what does that mean? Well, that is something that we're going to talk about. But first, let me say to you, I'm so glad you're here. I appreciate you being here with us. And although we are going to talk more about what do I mean by going deeper, I want to make sure right up front here that you know I appreciate the time that you take out of your day to listen to Thriving Entrepreneur. I hope that we bring value to you. We help you learn and live and love and thrive in all that you do in your life and business. So with that said, let's talk about going deeper. What does that mean? You know, there's all that surface stuff in life, right? There's all the things, there's the us that we show to the world. There's the things that everybody can see. There's that perfect and happy stuff that we want to project to the world. But just below the surface, when we go just a little deeper, there's so much more. Now, that's one part of it. So that's the emotional, if you will, aspect of going deeper. And that's really taking the time, with certain people, not with the whole world, but with certain people to go deeper, to have that deeper, more emotional, deeper, real, powerful connection with them. But then it also relates very much into our businesses as well. Now, yes, there is a principle in business that says people don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. So that emotional aspect of things is still here when we're talking about going deeper. But there's also just the really practical side of things. There is kind of standards in just about any industry you want to be in, talk about. There are the ways that they normally do it. Now, a lot of times in a lot of industries, whether you're talking about the church or ditch diggers and everything in between, there can often be an attitude of, we've always done it this way. And in that staying the sameness, which I know isn't great English, we end up often missing out on the really great stuff that we could do for the world. A perfect example of that these days, of course, is AI. There are people who are embracing AI and using it, and there's so much that can be done to up-level your business with AI. And then there's the folks that are terrified of it. They're sure that it is step one to the Terminator movie, and pretty soon we'll all be slaves to the robots. I think that's a little bit cautionary and reactionary is probably a better word. But in the end, when we go deeper when we look at what is possible, what are some of the things that technology, whether it be AI or email or any of the other technologies, what are some of the cool things that technology has come up with that can really make a difference now in what you're doing in the world? And a lot of times I think if we don't, on a fairly regular basis, take a look at that and say, what is the deeper? And we spend time going deeper into how can I up-level who I am, what I do, how I help the people that I serve. Without that time going deeper, we tend to, and I'm not saying it always happens, but we tend to end up missing out on an opportunity to really provide the best and top level of service to the people that we're meant to serve. So whether it be in your own personal life or in the relationships that you're in with the people in your life or with your customers or your clients, I encourage you to go deeper. When we find ourselves going deeper emotionally, when we find ourselves going deeper technologically, when we find ourselves really reaching for what can be, we then find ourselves really truly thriving and making the impact that only you can make in this world today as you reach out and you help the people that only you can serve and only you are meant to serve, and live as a thriving entrepreneur. So with that said, let's jump right in to our first guest. Join me in welcoming Annie Lynn. Hey Annie, how you doing today?
Good. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing really good, thanks. First
Good.
off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Um, I am Annie Lynn. I have written my first book called Beneath the Surface. I am a wife of almost 27 years, and I have 3 children who are mostly grown. They're in their 20s, still growing though. um, and I just, I have this book that started as a little project and has blossomed into this glorious thing that I love.
Well, I love that. So, talk to us a little bit about where the book Beneath the Surface came from for you.
Um, I have journaled for much of my life, and this book it wasn't a direct shot. It was kind of it took a roundabout way to come. Um, I started it. I was writing fiction stories, and I thought that's where my niche was going to be, was in fiction and love stories. But every time I started a story, something pulled me back to my own story and my own life. And that's what Beneath the Surface is. And when I began writing it, it was like a journal. That's how I was used to processing my feelings and what was going on in my life. And eventually these fiction stories were just pushed aside, and out came Beneath the Surface. And I realized I needed to write that to cleanse my soul in a way, and just get everything out there.
So, tell us about the things that you reveal and that you helped bring out for yourself in the book Beneath the Surface.
um I didn't have the model childhood. It wasn't the worst in the world, but in the same respect it wasn't the best. And I needed to um expose seems like a harsh word, but I needed to share that, so the people who were maybe going through the same thing or had gone through the same things that I have, they could read and know that there was somebody else out there who shared what they did, shared same things that happened in their life or similar things, and that they can rebound from that and create something good.
I love that. I know a lot of times when we have things like that in our life, we tend to, regardless of how many other people tell us they've been through it, we tend to feel like we're the only one and that we're really alone. Did you go through that yourself?
Oh yeah, a lot. Growing up, I always felt like I was my own little soldier in my own little army, and but no matter what I did, I was alone. And even as an adult, I I had my identity as a mother. I had my identity as a wife, but I still hadn't completely dealt with what had happened in my childhood. So though I had other things surrounding me, I still felt alone.
So, what did you do to begin to realize, that you weren't alone?
The first thing I did was, my husband didn't even know of all of the abuse that I had suffered as a child. And my first big step was to tell him what had happened. And after I told him, the floodgates just opened, and I must have cried for ages. I'm surprised I wasn't dehydrated because I was crying so much. But then I began therapy, and that was really what started to turn me around. And then the next big step that I took was I had emotionally disconnected from my family, but physically they were all still living right around me. And we took the big step and moved from Pennsylvania to Florida and created a physical boundary and a physical separation from my family.
So when you went through this process, did it feel kind of like going up into that dusty attic that you've never really looked at? Or, I mean, how did that feel for you?
It did, because I had never verbalized any of these things. And I had to go up, and there were some things that were kind of locked away, and I never let them out. And this was my chance to, and I knew if I was to heal and to grow, I needed to get all of that out and reach deep down and be honest with myself.
And, some of it they have to read the book in order to be able to see it. And some of it's probably stuff that you're never really going to totally share all of it with the world. I understand that. But what is a kind of a trick that you've learned to be able to accept the things that you can and let go of the things that you can't?
A very good friend of mine gave me a bookmark of, oh gosh, I can't think of what it is. Okay. I knew it's like, I believe in AA, they use the accept the things you can and change the things you can and accept what you can't. And that was a big step. Not only did I get all of this out, but I had to accept I can't change the past. And that was big for me. You can't change the past. You can only grow and move on from there. And so that's what I tried my best to do. At first, it was very difficult, but it's something you almost have to practice and live day by day. And that's just what I did. I didn't want to live in that past. I wanted to live in my present and in my future and enjoy what I had in front of me instead of crying over what had happened in the past.
Well, as the book title alludes to, obviously, and for many of us, there's the surface. There's that people look and see what we are on the outside. And then there's those things that are sometimes just barely below the surface, but are down below that. Do you still find yourself having those two different lives, or are you getting to the place where you can show people, those deeper things?
I think I'm getting to the point where I'm living my current life. I'm not thinking about that. The past used to haunt me, and I don't think I'm being haunted anymore. What I want to do, I do. And not that I'm doing bad things, but I'm not living in fear anymore. I'm living for me and living for my own family that I've created, my children and my husband and my friends as well.
That's really good. So, with the growth and all the things you've learned, what's one thing that you've learned that you can share with the listeners today?
Resiliency. There's always hope. You don't have to live in that past. Just because something bad happened doesn't mean you have to stay there. Look beyond and see that there are better things. You know, if this interview today would go terribly, yes, it would crush me. It would hurt a lot, but I can't go into another interview thinking, oh, I did terrible. I have to do, I'm going to do terrible again. No, learn from the mistakes and move on. And the other thing is to find your chosen family. Relationships, I read this, relationships are not obligatory. So just because you have a brother or an uncle, a cousin, a neighbor who you think you need to have a relationship with because they are your family or your neighbor, nothing is obligatory. You choose who you are and you choose who your family is. And some people have wonderful families. I'm not putting that down at all. Some have sisters and brothers who are best friends, and that is fantastic for them. However, we have not all been blessed with that. So we just have our chosen family and who we want to spend our time with and celebrate holidays with. And that's how we live.
I love that. And just so you know, so you can take a deep breath, you're doing really good with the interview, so you don't have to worry about that.
Thank you.
So let's talk specifically about the book. Of course, you can get it today for free on Amazon. What is your intention? What are you hoping people will get out of the book?
I hope people will see that there is hope and there are life lessons throughout the book and events and things that I did with my children growing up. And I'm not a parental guru by any means, but there are, with my family, I celebrated everything with my children. We had a holiday every month that we went a little crazy with everything, but I wanted them to celebrate all the time and celebrate every day and celebrate what they have. So that way, when there were bad times, they could always look back and say, oh, but wait, we did this holiday, or we up in Pennsylvania when we had snow days. For some reason, people would go to the grocery store and buy bread, eggs, and milk. And our family would go to the grocery store and buy hot dogs, graham crackers, marshmallows, and chocolate. And from the time the kids were very, very little, we would make a tent in the family room. And if it snowed, we were roasting hot dogs on the fireplace. And then we'd make s'mores on the fireplace. And the kids loved it to the point where when they were in their late teens, they'd be like, snow, do we have hot dogs? Can we make s'mores? And so now that we're in Florida, it's hurricanes instead of snow. and we don't have a fireplace, but we still, if everybody's here, we still do something like that. But I want people to be able to read the book and know there are so many options out there. You're not limited to Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Easter. There are many other directions to go.
I love that. And I did put the link down in the comments if you didn't see them up in the description so that you can get the book today for free. Annie, thanks so much for writing the book and thanks for being a guest here on the show today.
Thank you for having me, Steve. I appreciate you.
I'm so impressed with Annie's willingness to go deeper, to take the time to really look at what are those things, as her book's titled, Beneath the Surface, that maybe are even holding me back? What are the things that if I take a little deeper look at them, and even more so, if I go a little deeper with the people that are important in my life, I can become an even better version of myself. And from an emotional level, we really need to do that. We really need to take a look at who am I right now? What am I doing? And how can I go deeper to be able to really make the impact that I'm meant to make? I really encourage you to do that because there's such an opportunity for you that can really make a difference if you just will only take the time and ask yourself, how can I go deeper? When we're going deeper, we're really doing the things that we can do to make a difference in people's lives and really live as a thriving entrepreneur. With that said, let's take our first commercial break. We'll be back here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Don't go away. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKidd.com and schedule a time to talk today. This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today as we talk about going deeper. In the first segment, we were talking about the emotional end of things, about the stuff in our lives and the people that are closest to us and the things that we should go deeper with them in. Now we want to kind of switch and go more into the business side of things. You know, we like to always talk about thriving in both our life and business. So let's look at some of the cool things that we can do and or that others are doing to help us go deeper in the things we're doing. And it'll either really serve you with what you're doing or it'll really spark your imagination as to ways that you can find to go deeper with the things that you're meant to do in this world as well. With that said, let's jump right in to our very next guest. Join me in welcoming Bryce Worry. Hey, Bryce, how you doing today?
Doing great, Steve. How are you?
I'm doing really good, thanks. So first off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
So I'm an entrepreneur. I've been in the construction industry my whole life. I've owned a couple construction companies, a consulting company, and my passion is in construction, but specifically construction with technology. I like to infuse the two and use technology to complement the users in the field to be more successful and really take care of some of the busy work. And that's what we're trying to do with our software.
So tell us a little bit more about the software. How does it help? I mean, because you don't usually think technology when you think software. How is it helping them?
So what we're doing, it's a multiple different things that the platform does, but specifically, I developed this software about 6 years ago. I owned a consulting company, and I struggled myself to manage the projects I had because there was a lot of busy work. Just a matter of sending emails, looking for permits, my foreman in the field asking questions. We lost our plan specs, so in that process, I created a platform that was centralized for everybody to use. So when I made a change in the office for a new set of plans, and it was all digitized as well, like I mean, everything's in a digital format, the plans, the specs. My foreman in the field would see that, and they would it just it's like Slack for construction, really. That part of it, but what we also noticed developing this was how much the weather impacted the schedules in these projects. So we started putting actual weather impacts into schedules and predicting like where we can work the most efficient and have the least amount of impacts. And that's the other main feature that our software does is predicts the impacts your construction project's going to have from the weather impacts predicted and current, and then just, simplifies the process of communicating.
I love that. So when the weather forecast is saying that this particular area is going to have thunderstorms, let's just say, not real great when lightning's going to be out swinging hammers or any other type of construction activity. You can kind of modify the schedule so the folks are on another site that day. Is that kind of what you're meaning?
Yep, absolutely. We have one contractor that literally uses our software they might have 20 different projects across, say I'm like in San Antonio right now. Um, and even from one side of the town to the other, and we do this in like a proactive predictive model as well. So you can see 7 days out into your forecasted schedule. So as you're building the next week's schedule and you see a project on the west side of San Antonio's got a 45% chance of rain and the project on the east side has a 10%, you're going to probably play your cards right and move your crews and your schedule around to where you're going to be least impacted with like downtime and even quality. We push this to improve quality of construction because if you're working in an environment that's not super nice to work in and that you get rain in your asphalt or it's just it affects the quality of the product you're building, so we help with that as well, and put in the operational changes that are recommended when weather does come into a project. We text notify that user proactively and give out like operational recommendations to tarp trucks, cover up concrete, tighten up roller passes, just things, best practices that you want to do to combat those environment changes.
And so how modifiable is it? I mean, is it specifically for a specific type of construction industry or, pretty much any of them can use it or talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, so originally we built it for asphalt paving. That industry is really sensitive to environment, wind, cooling the asphalt, moisture, cold temperatures, all that. So that's where we've seen it impacting the most in the industry as far as horizontal. But right now, currently, we have some vertical contractors in there, some horizontal earth moving concrete companies, some municipalities. So really, we're finding that if you work outside and your schedule is dictated and controlled by the weather, this helps impact or helps identify some of those impacts and that risks proactively. So you can adjust some of those operational recommendations and things like that within the software, or even the impacts that it associates on your project. If rain doesn't affect your project as much, you can set that down or up and kind of make it fit to how your construction company works.
That's good stuff. So what is, if anything, the downside to relying on the technology rather than the ways that people did or didn't do things before?
It's a behavior change. Typically, our biggest competitor right now is just your weather. I mean, if you got a weather app or you watch your local news and pen and paper, Excel, there's nobody who's taking all the right recipes and putting it together to proactively look. I mean, like you could have 40 projects in this and see exactly how each project is going to be impacted to be most efficient with your time. Uh, in the olden day, or I want to say the olden days, but like the way it's being done now is it's kind of, well, we'll just deal with the weather when it comes. And anytime that you're just dealing with something when it comes, that's what we call reactiveness. And that's when you start losing money and quality. And that's if you add up all those little times that you're just, we'll see what happens and we'll just figure it out when it happens. That is a lot of lost time, money, and quality on those projects.
I really love that. So, let's talk a little bit in more detail about the kind of people. I mean, is there a certain place where you need to be with your business in order for you to be able to use it? Or, the brand new guy who this is day one with his paving company, will find just as much use out of it as, the great big companies that have crews all over town.
We have a variety. We just actually signed up a contractor from Pennsylvania that has only been a paving contractor for less than a year, and they see the value in this because that's one of their biggest struggles is they send a crew out to go do a project, and they only do like they have projects that only last a day or two. They do a lot of residential paving and construction, so short-term projects, and the crew gets there and they spent half the day sitting in the truck because of a rain, and so just managing the crews and their efficiencies. But we also have contractors that are doing. We just actually are working with a contractor right now doing a $20 million project, and we set up different locations to track the weather on this project that spans 30 miles, and we help them predict even day-to-day operations where and when they should work based off of the weather impacts because there might be a thunderstorm coming through that east end of that project. And if their crews are all concentrated on that east end of the project, they might get rained out, the quality of work. So they might look at moving, they got a phase to do over on the west end or planning for those operations when that rain comes and scheduling appropriately. One of the biggest, honestly, the biggest things that we've seen working with some pretty big companies and all that was they would send out a crew even if there was a 95% chance of rain to go sit and watch it rain and hope that it would break. And we would sit and watch the weather radar for 4 or 5 hours, and finally the foreman or superintendent would be like, all right, let's go home. It's going to rain. And that just cost $10,000 for everybody to come sit and watch it rain when it should have been just called that day. And we can't control the weather. So why put more lost money and time towards that something we can't control?
I could see the usefulness for it in just about every level of construction. That's pretty awesome stuff. So beyond weather forecasting, what are some other things that the tool does?
Yeah, we just released our AI tool called PAT, and it's PaveWise Assistant tool. One of the friction points we were having is this industry is technology is a behavior change. There's a lot of technology being used in this industry, but not by the people in the field, the operations, the foreman, and that's who we really direct towards. We call ourselves the foreman's best friend because everything is done on a phone and you can see, the weather radar, the changes, everything. But we had a lot of friction with our users because they would upload the data, the files for our system to work and manage, help them manage between the office. But um, our PaveWise Assistant tool, Pat, actually helped with some of the friction because they didn't want to put it in the right project. They didn't want to put it in the right folder and hit the notification to the people in that folder I let them know that this is uploaded. So we actually created that tool that does it at 90. We're at like 93 to 95% confidence right now. So all that user in the field has to do is hit upload, and it's smart enough to put it in the right project, the right folder, and text notify whoever's attached to that folder. So we're saving like 1 to 2, sometimes 3 hours a day with the users just being able to take a picture, upload, done. They don't have to do any more busy work.
Wow, I love that a lot.
Mhm.
Sounds like it's going to be the construction manager's construction project manager. Sounds like it's going to become their new best friend. Absolutely. So tell the people that are listening how can they best get in contact with you?
We are big on LinkedIn. That's where a lot of our social media presence is. We're also on Facebook, and we do a lot with Asphalt Pro. But if you just check us out on PaveWise on LinkedIn, we also have a website where you can sign up for free demos and give it a try. And yeah, we just love to connect. We just hope this technology helps mold a future of using not only technology, but the software to just plan better and be more efficient. And we think that's going to help with, extending tax dollars, building longer lasting roads when we can plan accordingly and just, help the people in the field get successful and make the right decisions.
Well, that's so much. So before I let you go, let's just, if you can take a couple of minutes and kind of describe to people, this is what it was before, and now this is what you can expect if you use the PaveWise technology.
Yeah. So I was a project manager, and the way I used to do it was I would look at the extended forecasts on a weather app, AccuWeather, and maybe I had 3, 4, 5, 6 different projects. I would look at the impacts of that extended forecast on those specific projects. So maybe I had a project, and this took time too, because I would have to look in, if it was a different city, I would look up the weather forecast for San Antonio, and then I had a project maybe over in Austin, and so I would look at all the extended forecasts and take time to look at the schedule. How's it going to impact us? What do we need to plan for? Literally now we are automating that to you drop a pin on that GPS location, and you can pretty much track everything you want according, attached to that project. It shows you real-time 95% accurate weather based off that GPS location, and it's real time. Literally you can click on any of your projects. It's going to tell you the weather now, 7 days out from now, 14 days out from now, just like that. So that's how it's being done and how we're doing it now.
I love it. Well, one last time before I let you go, give us the URL for your company.
It's PaveWise. It's pavewisepro.com, and you can check us out there. We have a link too as well, where we share and help contractors if they have questions, or just anybody interested in the PaveWise. We're happy to connect and maybe help you out or answer any questions.
I love it. Well, Bryce, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Yes, thank you, Steve.
I bet when I said to you we were going to talk about going deeper, the last industry you would have expected we would have talked about was the construction industry. It seems often to be so very set in the way that it's going, and yeah, maybe they make some cool new tools that are electric or that kind of thing to do the job faster, to do nails faster, or those kind of things. But I loved the fact that Bryce was really looking at what are the ways that technology can really serve them? Beyond just doing AutoCAD and the drawings, what are some other kind of really cool things that technology is allowing the construction industry to go deeper? I'm really loving the concept of that. And I hope that either you're in construction and you're like, hey, that's a great idea for me, or it helps you think in your own industry, what are some things that I can do that would help me go deeper as well? I hope that you'll think about that a little bit during this commercial. Listen to the commercial too. And then we'll be right back here on Thriving Entrepreneur. Don't go away. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKidd.com and schedule a time to talk today. This is Steve. Welcome back. Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. You know, I really do love the music that starts off that commercial. Hope it's not too shocking and jarring to you if you're driving down the road in the morning, although maybe it'll help you wake up. But the truth of the matter is I do really love that music. And it's one of the ways that I go deeper is by really bringing back the roots of where I started back in the music industry to be able to, help you feel a little bit alive even when you're listening to the commercials. So we've talked about the emotional aspect of things, and we talked about how cool some of the ways that they're going deeper in the construction industry using technology. And I wanted to give you one other way that technology is really coming in to help you go deeper in the things that you're doing. And again, if not specifically the industry that you're in, think about also how this applies to your industry and really put your mind towards what you can do to also go deeper as you listen to our next guest. Join me in welcoming Dejan Nov. I know I messed that up. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
First off, tell us a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
I'm by training a software and electrical engineer, and I have spent my professional life involved mostly with small to medium companies and startups, mostly around Silicon Valley, even though with some departures around the world. As I like to describe it, I've been doing the startup two-step for 30 years or so.
I understand that completely. What aspect of software development do you prefer, or are you doing right now? Either way.
Well, I spend my time mostly talking to different clients and organizations and people in various verticals and markets about their problems and what needs they have. And they've been quite variable over the years. In the last 5 years has been mostly healthcare. Before that, it was semiconductors and semiconductor design. Before that, it was I was focused on cybersecurity. But my focus, and I guess what I do is try to understand how we can leverage technology and specifically information system technology to improve people's businesses. We focus on outcomes, even though we're software people that call us software engineers or developers or what have you. Ultimately, what we need to be doing is figuring out how to do things so that people that run businesses can do it better, faster, cheaper, more profitably, and hopefully more enjoyably.
That's great. So what is kind of what you can tell us? I know some of it's proprietary, but what's some of the cool new things that you're doing in software development for the healthcare industry these days?
Healthcare is a monster industry, so it covers so many things. It's sometimes people get we can talk about any one thing all day long and only scratch the surface. But one of obviously artificial intelligence and machine learning are topics that everybody's discussing every day. The older guys like me that have been around for a while have seen a lot of this, what we call the hype cycle of technology that kind of hits us and everybody wants to do something with it. And then finally it kind of settles down into a practical things that can be done. And we've seen it with name it. It's been done. Big data and analytics, and then cybersecurity, and then financial technology. The whole Bitcoin and distributed ledger world, and now it's the time has come for AI. What I try to do and what is exciting is finding real applications that have practical uses. Because sometimes, we're so focused on developing new technology that sometimes we have solutions that are looking for problems to solve. And so today, a lot of people, when they say AI, they look at, ChatGPT or Bard from Google or one of the other similar generative AI tools and they forget that they were developed for chatbots. They have a very specific original niche that they were built for, which is to allow a AI replacement of a live human to take the first call to a call center or customer service link on your website. Now we've obviously expanded those applications greatly in the last 12 months, but ultimately that technology was originally designed to do exactly that. It has it's amazingly good, and it has fantastic applications in what I consider what I call better search. At the same time, we need to be careful to not try to fit the proverbial square peg in the right hole when we try to build solutions with a particular tech. So one of the exciting things that we've been able to do, leveraging that tech away from the sort of generic chatbot purpose, has been to use its capability understanding human language in describing things and converting it into what we call structured data, or basically instructions that the computer can understand of what to do. And so in healthcare, we talk about something called clinical workflows. Basically, if a patient shows up with a problem, what is the sequence of steps that the healthcare provider goes through to address their need to provide healthcare. And so they can be simple things as, show up with a tummy ache and, they look at you and say, this is a very simple problem you have. Here's, a prescription for some antacids and you can go home and don't worry about it, versus, you need to do some labs and maybe, if you're an older male, a colonoscopy, and, things can develop from there. So they can be very complex kind of workflows that need to be enabled. The challenge is that there are thousands of medical conditions people can have. Diagnostics can be very difficult to do and time consuming. Ordering laboratory tests can be complex. Making sure, of course, that one can pay for the services provided, your insurance, and all of those things. And again, a great deal of complexity in any one thing that you can kick off by just showing up at the doctor. So what we have been able to do with AI is to have an individual describe in plain English the sequence of things that have to happen in a workflow, push a button, and have software generate a ready-to-go workflow that can be executed to make that happen. I know it sounds very abstract and kind of more marketing than actual system, but I'll give you a practical example. Let's say that you are a lab that has invented a new medical test, and you need to build a workflow that says when a patient shows up at a physician and the physician has identified their diagnostic condition as, let's say, indigestion, then offer them our new medical test. But before they do it, they have to get a pre-approval from the insurance. And to do that, their physician needs to provide an attestation for medical necessity. Once you have those two things, create a requisition and send it to our lab, and send the patient a link in their email or SMS with a ability to schedule a time to come in so we can take, let's say, their blood or urine. And then once we've received that, send a notification to the physician that the lab has started, and then send them the results and integrate it into their medical chart. So what we're able to do is to take this plain text that I just rattled off to you, push a button, and the software will create all the steps necessary to execute that, and a user interface that the physician can start working in, that will communicate with the lab, will communicate with the patient, and grab the results. And so that's been exciting because it's a practical application of AI that I can very easily demonstrate to everybody, to anyone that wants to see how it works and what it does.
I love that whole process flow. I almost want to, I mean, do you have the capability? is it set up so that it specifically works for medical, or
it's specifically set up in healthcare. It is a system that is developed. Again, if I'm allowed to share actual brand names and companies, I can tell you whose software that is that we've developed. And but yes, it is available and can be used today.
I love that because I love the whole concept of just telling AI, this is what I needed to do, and then it, creates that flow for you versus, oh, that's so cool. I love it. All right. So, what is the future going to hold? I mean, we've got so many cool things going on. What are you seeing just kind of over the rainbow? Can you kind of give us a clue of where you think we're headed?
Well, again, if we stick to the theme of AI and medicine, I'll share with you another project I'm involved in that's somewhat visionary. And it has a lot of stories around it. But again, in medical diagnostics, we have challenges because there's no perfect test for any one disease. Very few diseases have perfect medical tests, and the process of finding out what's wrong with the patient is involves physicians and tests and equipment and interpretation of tests and differential diagnosis, and can be quite costly and time consuming. We also have a problem of timing, because if I don't feel well today and I call my physician and they can see me in 3 days or 10 days, by the time I show up, I may not, I may be feeling better. And then I go home and I don't feel good again the next day. Murphy's Law strikes. And so I'm involved in a project to develop a new kind of medical diagnostics based on machine learning technology, essentially relying on metabolimics. And the concept there is that, if you get sick, your body changes, and that is expressed in the change of your metabolism. And your body expresses that change in the contents of your urine, basically what chemicals and molecules get expressed in your urine. So if we can find the pattern that, people that have emphysema or starting to develop emphysema, we see a change in the content of their urine this way, we can then train a machine learning model, or AI, if you would, to recognize the pattern. And then if we can find a few hundred patients that have been diagnosed with some, maybe more severe disease, bladder cancer, and we take urine from them, then we can then train a model to diagnose or to identify the probability that the patient has bladder cancer based on their urine profile. Notice I'm avoiding the word diagnose, because you cannot really rely 100% for the foreseeable future on a test or AI-based medical device, if you would, to do a diagnosis. You always need a physician and sort of critical thinking and to complete a diagnosis. But with the technology, what we could potentially do is take one urine sample at the moment of time that you're not feeling well and run it through a single laboratory processing, and then feed the data files to a computer that can go through dozens or hundreds of models of diseases, and for each one of them give you kind of a probability whether you should follow up on that with your doctor or not. That is exciting and quite revolutionary, because it can dramatically change sort of our ability for a low-cost, quick, easy to collect, even at home sample, to give you, again, sort of a pre-screening for probable, for possible problems that you need to follow up with. If you take a basket of a dozen diseases today on average, and you say, okay, what does it cost to run medical tests that are informative about whether you may have the problem or not? You're likely to very quickly get over thousands of dollars, and then the inconvenience of having to schedule these things, go to a lab to collect them, get blood drawn, everybody gets to be reimbursed by the payer. If we can do the same thing at home for a test at a cost which is a few $100s and cover dozens or possibly, maybe someday hundreds of diseases, that can be exciting and can have implications at the sort of a global population health level. And so that's one of the exciting things that I'm involved in.
That is very cool stuff. So tell people the URL or the best place to go if they're in the medical field and they'd like to get your help with their technology.
For the AI workflows, I recommend onehealth.io. That's the digit 1 and the word health together.io. If you're curious about the medical test technology that I mentioned, it's Luventix. That's L-U-V like Victor, E, N like Nancy, T like Tom, I-X. And then if you have a general software need, or if you think you're spending too much on software and getting things done too slowly, then the place to go is panaton.com. That's Panaton like Nancy.com.
Well, Dee, thanks so much for spending some time with us here on the show today.
Thank you very much for hosting the show. It was very enjoyable.
Healthcare is doing so many cool new things with technology, robotic things, assistant kind of things, and then of course just all of the different things when you go and you visit your regular doctor and stuff like that. So many amazing things that they're using technology to help you be able to live better, live longer, have a healthier, better, more well-balanced and happy life. And that's just some of the things that when we go deeper, when we take a look at what is there beyond just what we've always done, we can find some pretty cool things that are there just below the surface. Just like we talked about in the first book that we talked about in the first segment, just beneath the surface are some things. And when those things get dealt with, they can make us live a better life. And just below the surface in technology are some possibilities that when they get dealt with, we can really truly thrive in a way that maybe we never even contemplated before we spent the time going deeper. So I do hope that you took some time thinking about that while we were talking today, and that more than anything else, you will go deeper on this one thought, and that is that you are uniquely brilliant. You were created for a purpose, and the world needs you. When you go deeper into that, you believe it, you really take it to heart, and you do the things then every day that you can do today to be the best version of yourself and maximize today, you can live every day of your life as a thriving entrepreneur. Until we're together again next time, have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Thriving Entrepreneur today. If you want to get your question answered, send an email to questions@wehelpyouthrive.com. We look forward to you joining us again next time.
Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third-generation minister, an international best-selling author of multiple books, and I help people write, publish, and market their books to bestseller. In fact, there are literally thousands of people that have used the system that I created to be able to write, publish, and market their books, and now they're best-selling authors. And you're next. I just wanted to come on for a minute, say hi to you, tell you a little bit about me, introduce myself, and tell you I know the world is waiting on your message, and I would be so honored to be part of sharing your message with the world. Go to AskSteveKid.com and schedule a time to talk today.